Believing my husband and daughter were on their way to his family's house, I was taken aback to find out they weren't with him. Then, out of nowhere, a call from an unknown number.
"Mom, I'm cold,"
came my daughter's voice, sending shivers down my spine. Racing to where she said she was, I found no sign of my husband. How could he just leave our daughter and disappear? I can't believe this, I thought, fury mounting within me. It was in that moment I resolved to make him pay dearly for his actions. My name is Deborah. I'm 32 years old and lives with my husband, Robert, and my daughter, Amanda. Amanda is a determined girl who will be entering the 3rd grade of elementary school this year. In our home, which is often filled with the echoes of everyday life, Amanda stands up as my unwavering ally, eagerly taking care of the chores every time I push myself away with a demanding job or when the chores pile up. This is in stark contrast to Robert, who seems to accept outdated concepts and firmly believes that housework falls squarely on women's shoulders, thereby absolving them of household responsibilities. It turns out that this stubborn way of thinking is deeply rooted in his upbringing and is heavily shaped by the influence of his mother. As an only child, Robert was the center of his mother's world and was treated as a cherished son. But his father, George, was immersed in work and was often away from home, so perhaps Robert was the center of his mother's world. She probably served as her mother's main emotional support. With this upbringing, Robert developed a distorted sense of entitlement and rarely faced the consequences of his own actions. He often jokes, "What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine," like a quote sounds taken from a comic book, but it reflects an alarming sincerity to his beliefs. This problem came to a head in the fall of his 4th year. After a simple but meaningful ceremony at a local community center to celebrate Amanda's milestone, both families gathered for a commemorative meal.
"This is for Amanda,"
Robert's parents said as they gave her a gift to celebrate her special day. "Thank you. I will put it to good use."
"Mom, what is this?"
"This is a gift for your special day, darling. I'll save it for something important in your future."
"Thank you, Grandpa and Grandma."
It creates a moment of warmth and unity between us. However, this harmonious atmosphere was soon destroyed by Robert, who in a moment of amazing insensitivity said,
"Why bother saving? You'll just withdraw it anyway."
The room fell silent and all eyes turned to him. "Do you want to withdraw it? But it's Amanda's savings. You have no right to touch it," I protested, the disbelief and irritation evident in my voice. Unfazed, he answered with a grin.
You won't need it soon, so I thought it wouldn't hurt to use it a little,"
he casually added.
"You know, I borrowed $300 from Amanda's savings because I really needed some shoes. That's okay, right?"
He chuckled, trying to lighten the mood with some misplaced humor. George could not contain his anger and confronted Robert.
"Did you withdraw money from your child's savings?"
He roared as Robert, with rare agility, quickly tried to run behind me. The person my husband is always afraid of is his father George. His mother was always generous towards him, but George was the exact opposite, strict and demanding. I heard my husband talk about when he was in junior high school, he secretly stole money from his mother's wallet and used it for a game, and George found out about it. The horror of that day haunted him for years and left him completely traumatized. Recently, we were celebrating the accomplishments of his daughter Amanda, but to keep the peace, we needed to calm George down and decided to cancel dinner midway through and head home. Back at her house, I reassured Amanda that there was nothing to worry about. After she put her to bed, it was time to have a serious talk with her husband. I couldn't help but confront him. "Why are you doing this? Are you trying to destroy our family?" Although his reaction was negative.
"It's only $300. You're overreacting."
But it wasn't about money. It turns out that he used Amanda's savings without her permission. "I can't live with someone who does that. I want a divorce," I declared. He took a firm stance.
"No way. I will definitely return it. Please forgive me."
As he said this, he knelt down and begged for forgiveness, promising never to repeat his mistake again. He needed us, he said. His words felt selfish and didn't resonate with me. Still, he couldn't ignore the fact that he was Amanda's father, and was reluctant to divorce because he thought she would lose him. We had dreams and plans together. He was working hard to establish a computer school, which was his dream even before we got married, and I gave him full support. I finally saw a breakthrough, so I decided to give him an ultimatum. Will you promise to never touch Amanda's savings again and to always talk to me about money? He agreed and said this.
I promise. I'll keep my word.
I decided to trust him again. For years have passed and he kept his promise. Not only he did not touch Amanda's savings, he also consulted with me about the financial aspects of starting the class, which would have cost about $20,000. His business is growing steadily, and he opened his third store this year.
I have a meeting and a new class to prepare for today, so I'll be home late. Please don't wait for me,
he said as he went to work. When Amanda heard that, she looked sad.
Daddy seems busy.
She looks down sadly. Recently, Robert's work schedule has become increasingly hectic, often requiring him to work on weekends, leaving him barely any time to spend at home. Amidst this whirlwind of busyness, we received a phone call from his father, George.
Deborah, it's been a while. How's Robert managing his workload? Is he keeping up with everything okay?
I responded, ensuring him. Hello, George. Yes, Robert's deep into launching a new project, but he's making good progress. George sounded relieved to hear the news. He then shifted the conversation towards a more heartwarming invitation.
That's wonderful to hear. I was thinking, why don't you guys come over for Christmas this year? It's been a while, and I'm eager to see how much Amanda has grown.
Touched by his thoughtfulness, I accepted gratefully. That sounds lovely. We'll take you up on that and visit as a family. After concluding the call, an excited Amanda asked,
Are we really going to stay at Grandpa's?
I decided then to immediately share the news with Robert through an email. Robert's reply came swiftly, filled with a promise.
I'll make sure to take day off for Christmas.
As months passed, Robert's project seemed to be progressing well. Yet, his late returns home continued, hinting at an unending busyness. Concerned, I asked, About the Christmas trip, are you sure you can get day off? He reassured me.
Yes, I've planned for it, so it'll be fine.
This brought me a sense of relief. However, I soon faced a dilemma of my own. I've actually taken off for Christmas and New Year's, but they've asked me to work due to being short-staffed. Robert pondered over our predicament.
That's unfortunate. But what about our visit back home?
Apologetically, I suggested. Could you and Amanda go without me? He agreed.
Okay, I'll tell them about it.
I entrusted Robert with the task of informing his family about our adjusted plans. On the day we were supposed to leave, Amanda looked slightly saddened by my inability to accompany them. To cheer her up, I handed her a small pouch, a token of comfort.
Mom, what's this?
She inquired. It's a charm from me. Open it whenever you feel lost or troubled. I explained.
Okay, I got it.
She replied with a newfound resolve. I watched their car fade into the distance before heading off to work myself. Later that evening, as work calmed down, I decided to call George. Hey George, it's been too long. I was all set to join you today, but, wouldn't you know it, work just had to throw a wrench in my plans. Has Robert and our little Amanda made it over to your place yet? I tried to keep the disappointment out of my voice, hoping my apologies came through sincere over the phone. George's confusion was almost palpable through the line.
What are you talking about? They're not here. What's going on?
His question, laced with worry, sent a shiver of unease down my spine. I quickly promised to touch base with Robert and get back to him, hanging up with a sense of urgency nipping at my heels. Just as I was about to call Robert, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. Hesitantly, I answered. Hello! And there it was, my daughter's voice, fragile and small, breaking through the static.
Mom.
Yes, sweetie, it's Mom. Amanda, is that you?
Mom, it's cold. I feel so alone.
Her words, heavy with tears, seemed to echo in my ears. "Are you all right, Amanda? Where's your dad?"
He told me to wait in the car and then he just went away.
Her answer twisted my heart with worry. "Can you tell me where you are, honey?" It turned out she was at a hotel. I urged her to stay right where she was, assuring her I'd be right there. After calming her down, I called George back, briefed him on the situation, and asked if he could head to the hotel. I then explained everything to my boss and made a beeline for the hotel to find my daughter. Arriving at the hotel, I found George and his wife had already gotten there, sitting with Amanda on a couch, providing her with some comfort. The moment Amanda saw me, she dashed over, her arms thrown wide for a hug.
"Mommy."
Holding her in my arms, relief washed over me, grateful beyond words that she was safe. After a moment, Amanda started digging in her pockets, looking to show me something.
"Mom, look, thank you."
She pulled out a small pouch, the very amulet I had given her as a token of protection.
"Because I had the charm you gave me, I was able to call you, Mom."
It turned out, Amanda had stayed put in the car as her father had instructed. But as the car gradually cooled, her sense of security faded into fear. It was then she remembered the charm I had given her, which, upon opening, she found filled with her favorite candies, a reassuring letter, and some cash. The letter said, "To Amanda, I'm so sorry we couldn't be together today. But remember, Mom is always here for you, thinking of you. Whenever you feel troubled or lost, don't hesitate to call me." Inspired by my words, Amanda mustered the courage to leave the car in search of a payphone to call me. While I felt a surge of pride for my daughter's bravery, a simmering anger toward Robert for putting her in such a situation began to bubble within me. We found ourselves and my husband's parents settled in the hotel lobby, patiently awaiting my husband's arrival. After a tense 30-minute wait, my husband emerged, his arm entwined with that of a mysterious woman, both seemingly oblivious to our vigilant presence. Unbeknownst to him, as he wrapped up his checkout, he turned to find his father standing like a sentinel before him, with me, our daughter, and his visibly distressed mother in tow. The shock of the moment elicited a sharp cry from him as he instinctively tried to flee, casting the woman's hand aside and bolting towards the exit. His father, however, pursued him with a determination, catching up at the hotel's exit, seizing his arm with a firm grip to thwart his escape while the woman, catching up, voiced her protests. Reluctant to expose our daughter to the unfolding drama, I suggested to his mother that we wait in the lobby, hastening myself to the scene. The confrontation that awaited me outside was charged, with my husband and his father embroiled in a tense standoff, further complicated by the woman's demands.
"Who is that guy? Let him go!"
she demanded, her voice cutting through the tension.
Please, let me go.
My husband's voice quivered, a plea for freedom. His father, unyielding, held my husband's gaze, a silent sentinel until my arrival. Upon my approach, the woman's protests grew louder, threatening to summon the police in a bid to liberate my husband. "Go ahead, call them," I retorted, stepping closer to deliver a well-deserved slap across my husband's face. "You left our daughter in the car. What were you thinking?" I challenged. His response was a meek and fumbling attempt at explanation. Witnessing this, his father intervened with authority.
Answer.
He demanded, gripping my husband by the collar and fixing him with a stern look.
"What's going on here?"
I demanded clarity. "I am his wife." "And who are you?"
So you're the wife. I'm his girlfriend."
she replied, her smile tainted with defiance.
"He's quite the businessman, managing several schools. A plain Jane like you doesn't fit the bill of a CEO's wife."
Patricia sneered, her arms crossed as she scanned Deborah from head to toe, her gaze dripping with disdain. "Oh, really?" I retorted, my tone dripping with sarcasm as I turned to face Robert, seeking validation. "Tell me, am I really the drab wife she claims I am?" I inquired. Robert, caught in the crossfire, could only muster,
No, you're beautiful.
Patricia, unable to contain her fury, blurted out.
Robert, you always said your wife's charm had faded.
Undeterred, I pressed on. So, you were prepared to divorce me, a woman you deemed charmless, for her? Patricia's smirk widened, but Robert, on the brink of tears, pleaded with me.
I don't want a divorce. It was just a fling with her. It meant nothing, I swear. My heart belongs to you alone, Deborah. Please forgive me.
He dropped to his knees in a grandiose display of remorse, leaving Patricia pale and crumbling to the floor in shock. How can a casual affair be an excuse? I challenged.
I cheated, but it wasn't serious.
Robert tried to justify, only to be met with my scorn. So, cheating is fine as long as it's not serious?
That's not what I mean.
Robert stammered. Then what do you mean? If I'm supposedly past my prime, then you're nothing more than an average middle-aged man. A failure as both a husband and a father. I retorted. Robert, now defiant, exclaimed.
How am I a failure? I've kept our promises, never touched Amanda's savings, and always consulted you about finances. I never vowed fidelity.
George, witnessing his son's outburst, intervened with a slap that echoed through the room, leaving Robert's face swollen. George then repeatedly apologized to me before taking Robert back home. I, along with Amanda, returned to my parents' house to welcome the new year. Soon after, a thick envelope arrived from George, filled with evidence of Robert's infidelity and details of his affair with Patricia. I decided to hand it over to my lawyer, setting the stage for a new beginning. After finalizing the divorce, I found relief in securing the alimony and child support that matched my expectations. The woman involved with my husband turned out to be an employee at one of his business contacts. Their repeated interactions had spiraled into an affair. I made sure to send a detailed account of their infidelity to her employer and demanded she compensate me as well. Exposed and disgraced, she found herself ostracized at work, yet she remains, clinging to her job to fulfill her financial commitment to me. My husband's professional life took a hit as well. News of his affair spread across his business network, leading to severed contracts and ultimately, the collapse of his company. I was anxious about how this might affect his alimony payments, but his parents reassured me, committing to oversee the payments until he was able to settle his debts completely. Subsequently, we relocated, finding a new start in an apartment closer to where I grew up. For my daughter's 10th birthday, I surprised her with a cell phone. Her response, lit with excitement.
Thank you, Mom. Now we can always stay in touch.
Warmed my heart profoundly. Her happiness is my greatest treasure. With this resolve, I am committed to nurturing our bond, safeguarding her joy, and building a future filled with love and stability.